But so let's go back to the Supreme Court pick. What
Well,
is that looking like? Right.
well, so that to me, that's the consistent narrative, is that I said I was going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And since this is what I'm going to do, we are seeing mainstream media on the right come up and say it's an affirmative action type of hire,
Mhm.
or that these Black women are not qualified, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas on the left, we're saying, and Jim Clyburn has been one of the biggest voices on this. Yes, we want a Black woman, but we don't want a Black woman from the Colonial Eight, or the Ivy Leagues as we call them today, right? If we're going to get a Black woman, we want a Sherilyn Ifill, right, who's leading the Southern Poverty Law Defense Fund. We want, or we want,
Like a boots on the ground type of.
we want a Black woman that is not going to be from the Ivy Tower, right? So to me, that's where the conversation really is.
Let's embark on the Ark Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build, let's shine, yeah.
One of the highlights, however, is that Justice Stephen Breyer says that he is retiring from as a Supreme Court justice. He's stepping down, which now puts on the table the possibility of, for the first time, perhaps a Black woman serving on the bench. What's going on with that?
And to Biden's credit, he said, I promised that I was going to put up a Black woman for the Supreme Court. So the Senate better be ready to have conversations with Black women, right? He has not in any way backed up from that statement, right?
But he's also failed on a lot of quote unquote other promises. But
like what exactly? What has he failed on?
We're still talking about the student loan issue. We still, even though there have been measures put in place, Black people are suffering in the pandemic. There is also, even in the pandemic, I don't know if I want to talk about this because we keep getting shadow banned on YouTube for things that we say. But even in the pandemic, a lot of, there are Black folks who have expressed having like serious economic issues and that have not been properly addressed. And as we know, Biden said, African American community, I got your back. And now they're starting to move because these midterms are going to be a mess. So
when it comes to coronavirus, from a presidential seat, I don't know what else he can do. I feel like he's exacerbated what he can do as president. Now, has the Congress responded in ways that he would like? Not necessarily, but we have to remember we don't live in a dictatorship. And so for what he can do, I feel like he's done the extent of what he can do. That does not then change that Black people are still suffering, right?
But the pushback is always, it behooves me even when Democrats say that they want to take the high road, when they've been placed so much, a lot of their constituents are struggling because of the mafiosa style tactics that the previous GOP administration have put in place. And even the Republicans in power are putting in place in a majority Democratic Congress.
Let me present this. So when we have this debate about this mafioso style and the way that the Republicans work, we have to remember that if we then operate the same way, meaning we as Democrats, or me as a Democrat, if we operate the same way, when they get power back, they just double down even harder. I'll give you an example. During the Obama years, we got rid of the filibuster for judicial appointees because they kept blocking all of Barack's judicial appointees, not just at the Supreme Court level, but federal judges, period. The reduction of a filibuster, not having that filibuster, is why we end up getting Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh. Right? So we get rid of, we played mafioso style power and then end up with a 6-3 court. right?
Okay.
So what we have to consistently remember is, and I'm not saying that we don't need to be more forceful. I'm saying that we always have to think about how when Republicans get, when they get the racket back in their hand, they hit 10 times harder than we're ever willing to hit. And that's just the reality of it. So if we're going to play those politics, then we have to remember that the pendulum is going to swing swing a lot further. And what we have to remember is, and this is where it gets controversial. What we have to remember is we are still the quote unquote leader on the international stage. And the more volatile we are, the more volatile the rest of the world is.
Right.
And
I
so
don't, I totally disagree with that, because the world more so is backing a GOP Republican Party in terms of my experience. And it might be because I was in Europe. You know what I'm saying? But
well, they're backing this realist international framework because liberalism hasn't worked, right? Liberalism and this level of equality model and everybody sharing is not working, right? Europeans are saying it's not working for us. We as Western nations are taking too hard of a toll, and we want to go back to pure nation states, sending everybody back to where they came from, right? America is still not on that same page. And so you're exactly right. I think the rest of the world, which is why we see democracy in decline throughout the world, right? That the rest of the world is still on this, singing this song. But I would argue that the United States is not ready to sing the song of less democracy. We are still in the posture of promoting a democratist system. And if you're promoting a democratist system, you cannot then be overly hard-handed, because the pendulum will swing, and once it swings, you may not be ready to live with those consequences.
But I think that maybe I find, well, what you said, I don't, I have not seen in my lifetime a Republican Party that says, well, because the Democratic Party has been fair and has been, conscientious about how they move when they're the majority leadership, we're going to be, more forgiving and gentle. I've never seen that in my life.
You've never seen it in the media or on the forefront on the stage. But if you get behind and look and dig through policies, you will see where Democrats have been able to back Republicans off of extreme things because of that gentiality. Put it like this: the Democrats are like the Democrats are like the woman that's in an abusive home and begs the abuser to be less abusive, right? Until we are ready, right? But until the Democratic Party is ready to meet the abuser head up, right, and bring a gun to a knife fight. My argument is that they're never willing to do that because they're concerned about the international stage, because they understand the pendulum swing when we're not concerned about it. And that leads into Putin and what we're seeing him doing, right? And why he's pushing Democratic. You didn't see him. You don't see Putin pushing Republican. You don't see Putin or the Russia structure pushing Republican controlled White Houses to war. You don't see that. You see it with Democrats. Why? Because he knows that Democrats are going to be far less likely to promote all-out war at all costs, right? And so what I'm saying to you is that's not their positionality. So then to ask for them to be like that in domestic affairs, I think is unreasonable, right? Because that's not their ideological framework. That's not how they operate, period.
But so let's go back to the Supreme Court pick. What is that looking like? Right.
Well, so that to me, that's the consistent narrative, is that I said I was going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And since this is what I'm going to do, we are seeing mainstream media on the right come up and say it's an affirmative action type of hire, or that these Black women are not qualified, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas on the left, we're saying, and Jim Clyburn has been one of the biggest voices on this. Yes, we want a Black woman, but we don't want a Black woman from the Colonial 8 or the Ivy Leagues, as we call them today, right? If we're going to get a Black woman, we want a Sherilyn Eiffel, right, who's leading the Southern Poverty Law Defense Fund. We want, or we want, there's
like a boots on the ground type of.
We want a Black woman that is not going to be from the Ivy Tower, right? So to me, that's where the conversation really is. Conversation is, what type of Black woman are we going to see plugged into it? Not if we're going to see one, because Biden has been emphatic about presenting one and has presented why there needs to be one, and has in many ways shown the credentials of Black women that are in the judgeship across the country to justify that this is the affirmative action is an absolute BS excuse, right? So to me, the argument, it really is, does he put up a Eiffel, or does he put up what's the young lady who's who came out of Yale, who's sitting on the DC Superior Court?
I forgot her name. I was just,
I can't remember her name. Right. So so to me, that's the question. The question isn't if we're going to get one. The question is, what type of Black woman are we going to get? And I'm here to argue that it doesn't matter what type of Black woman we're going to get. Getting her over the finish line, getting her confirmed, is going to come down almost to a tiebreaker vote.
Well, I mean, look, we have Clarence Thomas, and he ain't. So let's not say that. Let's not say that. Okay, we do have some skin folk that are not our kinfolk, unfortunately.
Absolutely, but Black women tend to be less of that. Not to say that they don't exist, right? Candace Owens is our example that's not the case. But what I'm saying to you is that the majority of Black women that fall in that category are far less than the number of Black men that fall into that category.
True that.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Arc Republic. If you like what you see and you like what you hear, you can actually keep this mothership going. How? You can make a tax-deductible donation in several ways. One, Cash App us at Arc Republic Media. And you can also go on our website, arcrepublic.com/donate. As well, you can also donate to our fiscal sponsor and our sister organization at Black Farmers Index, that is Cash App, or also go onto their website, blackfarmersindex.com. We are two Black women-owned media organizations who share our profits so folk can thrive.
Let's embark on the Arc Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build. Let's shine, yeah.